afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's a beautiful day outside, but we're happy that you are using your computers, laptops, iPhones to Zoom with us today and hear from Jessica Mirowitz. Jessica has over 12 years of experience working in the marketing and advertising industry for locally based companies, including Scottrade and Nestle Purina. She helps pet brands like Purina Pro Plan, Dog Chow, Tidy Cats, and Friskies develop targeting strategies using data so their advertising campaigns can reach the right consumers as they're browsing the web, streaming video content, or scrolling through social media apps like Facebook. Jessica is an executive board member at Covenant Place and enjoys sharing her marketing knowledge and being a resource to the Mirowitz Center and Tech Tutor community. And we are so honored to have Jessica with us today. She keeps coming back, and we are so happy she does. She is a wealth of knowledge, and she is going to talk to you today about how to stay safe while online. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Jessica. Also, if you have questions, you can raise your hand virtually or in the camera or type something in the chat, and Jessica is happy to answer questions and wants this to be an interactive discussion today. So thank you again, Jessica, and I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you so much, Susan. So happy to be with everyone today. Can you all see my screen? Looks good? Okay, wonderful. So I'm Jessica Mirowitz. Super happy to be back with you all today teaching this class on social media safety. The subject matter is really important to me. Not only do I work in social media from an advertiser perspective, I also use these tools every day. And I consider myself to be more on the tech savvy side, but I've always found that the privacy and security features can be kind of cumbersome and confusing. So if you do too, know that you're not alone. Questions are more than welcome. Please, no question is a bad question, so feel free to engage, and I'll pause throughout to see if you have any questions. I actually taught this same class exactly a year ago on April 19th, 2021, and a lot has happened since then. Most notably, Facebook actually changed their name from Facebook to Meta. For the purposes of today, though, I'll continue to call it Facebook. And while the pandemic has begun to taper, now we're in the midst of the Russian-Ukrainian war, which is having wide-ranging effects on everything, including our safety online. So it's more important than ever that we use caution when participating in social media sites like Facebook. So that's what I'll be speaking about today. So billions of people all over the world use Facebook to stay connected with their friends and family. It's great for things like seeing pictures of grandkids, getting recommendations, or discovering what's going on in your community. Besides YouTube, Facebook is the most widely used social media platform among US adults. And it's not just younger generations that are on it. 50% of US adults ages 65 and older say that they use Facebook. Because so many people are on it, that's why it's unfortunately a place where bad actors can go to obtain bits and pieces of personal information in order to hack or scam people. It's also a source for the spread of misinformation. So today I will cover 4 topics: password safety tips, link safety, how to conduct a quick and simple privacy checkup in your account, and how to avoid spreading misinformation. So here are some password tips that these don't just apply to Facebook. They can apply to any online platform or website that you might need to create a login for. So first, the longer the better, at least 12 characters long, at least 1 symbol, caps, or a number. Avoid using consecutive numbers together, like 1, 2, 3, 4. These are kind of the standard, tips that you'll see when you're creating a password online. Second, use random nonsense phrases or even like inside jokes, things that make sense to you, but wouldn't make sense to or be easily guessed by an external person, like a nickname or even a song lyric or a saying, something you say to yourself. Some examples are mouse in the house, 13-pound, crazy train rides. You can see I'm piecing multiple words together. So when I'm looking at it, it's easy for me to recall and remember and to type in, but would be really difficult for someone to guess. You can replace random letters with symbols or numbers, like an @ symbol for an A, an exclamation point for an I. So you can see some of these examples, Paperboys 9, where I replace the A with an @ symbol, or pizza for dinner. So these are just some clever, thought starters or ideas of ways that you can make your password more difficult to guess. Don't use obvious personal information. So avoid using a pet's name, a relative's name, birthday, anniversary, or an address. I know that can be tricky because these are, again, things that come to mind more easily, but try to avoid that if you can. And last, try not to reuse passwords across different sites. It's important to change your passwords regularly. Therefore, I do recommend using a password manager tool. There's one that I use that's called Dashlane that I really like, where it kind of keeps all your passwords in one place. You can access it on your phone or on your computer by logging in. If that's something you're interested in, definitely reach out maybe to a friend or family member who could help you set it up. If you do write your passwords down on a piece of paper, try to keep it out of plain sight. So keep it stored away in a drawer or just, not out on your desk if possible. Okay, so I have a game for you all. I'm going to have you guess which password is the best. So I will give you 4 examples, and then if you don't mind typing in the chat, which one do you think is the best? So let's begin. Which password do you think is the best out of these 4?
D.
Good guess. You are correct, it's D. So password 1234 is actually one of the most commonly used passwords. Definitely do not use that. It's what hackers will always try first to try to get into an account. D is a great password because, I can look at it and, easily recall and remember and say, oh, I can type that into my account. But it's piecing together 4 separate words. So this would be really difficult for someone to guess. And it's got the @ symbol and a number and a caps. Okay, one more game. Which password here do you think is the best?
D.
If you guessed B, you are correct. So again, piecing together multiple words, using numbers and an exclamation point. Naples 1, 2, 3, 4, again, or 1, 2, 3. Again, those are consecutive numbers. I graduated from Mizzou in 2008, so that could be easy for someone to guess. An address would be good to avoid as well. So you guys are experts now. Any questions before I move on to the next section on links? Oh, okay. All right, so this section is about malicious links.
I'm sorry, Jessica, I think
Yep.
Norm has a question.
How often do we change?
It's a good idea to change it every 4 months, which I'll admit is I don't even do. I try to, but that's where I think that having a tool makes it easier to change it. They can remind you, hey, it's time to change your password. But it's just a really good exercise to do, to sit down every 3 to 4 months and change passwords, especially on some of the more sensitive accounts, like a bank account or a social media account. Great
Barbara
question.
Also has a question. She wants to know, should we change our usernames, or is the password enough, changing the password?
Password is enough. Your username is usually your email. So You know, some sites do, you know, like bank accounts will have usernames, but changing your password is the most important thing you can do to stay safe. And I will talk about a tool called two-factor authentication on an upcoming slide, which is another thing you can do to increase and up your safety and security. Okay, so this next section is about links. So malicious links can show up in your Facebook news feed, which is what you see when you first log on to Facebook. But they're often found in a tool called Facebook Messenger, and this is where users can send and receive private messages. More often than not, though, they'll show up in messages from someone who you're friends with on Facebook whose account has probably been hacked, or from someone who's impersonating someone that you're friends with. So malicious links are either trying to get you to share personal information or to share your password so that they can then access your online accounts. Or they could be trying to get you to download malware on your computer that then allows them to access your computer files, which would be equally bad. Some examples of what these might look like would be a message saying, "Oh my God, is this you in this pic?" Something that's really trying to get your attention and trying to get you to click. Or, "Did you see who died? Click here." Here are some other examples that I pulled. Really, the biggest sign that a link is bad, again, is when someone is prompting you to take an action or to do something. So in these examples, you can see offers for special gifts or deals. Or again, if you're being prompted to, watch a video, these are clear signs that this is a malicious link, and just do not click. Here are some other tips on how to spot a bad link or a malicious post. So oftentimes there will be misspellings or the use of poor grammar. There will be that sense of urgency, like, you got to do this right now. Use of all caps or lots of exclamation points. The use of a shortened or unfamiliar URL, which is that web address. Bit.ly is a URL shortener where someone can kind of hide the website address that you're clicking on, so you can't see where you're going. And I think the biggest thing is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And if it sounds really, really bad, again, like something you need to address right away, it probably isn't. And again, I'll share these slides out with you guys so you can reference them later on. Okay, so how to spot a good link. A recognizable website URL. So a site that you recognize, you've been to before. The URL typically would begin with https:// or just www. Or it would end with a .com, .org, .edu. That's how you can tell, again, that it's a legitimate website. On Facebook, they launched recently what's called, I'm calling the I-info button. So when someone shares a link on Facebook and you see this little I in a circle in the corner, have this little red arrow pointing to it, you can hover over and click on that I, and it will give you more information about that website. So you don't even have to click to go there to see what it's all about. It will tell you the history of that site, how long it's been in existence, what other articles have been posted from that site. So I think it's a really helpful tool that Facebook launched. A couple other examples that you might see on Facebook are on advertisements. So Facebook has built-in buttons on their ads, and these are safe. There'll be buttons like shop now or learn more. These are ads that are being run on Facebook. Whether you want to click on them or not is up to you, but any type of advertisement that you might see on Facebook is not going to be a malicious link. If it goes through their ad platform, they have vetting features to make sure it's not malicious. Okay, I have another game for you guys. It's called To Click or Not to Click. So tell me whether or not you would click on this link. So I'm in my news feed. I see in a group I'm in, someone posts asking for recommendations for resealing granite countertops. Someone else responds and includes a link, as you can see, to this website called bobvilla.com, how to seal a granite countertop. You can see there's the little I buttons right here. So that's a good sign. And if you hover over that little I button, here's what it looks like. It pops up with information about bobvilla.com. Would you click this link?
Where's the I?
I know it's kind of hard to see. It's in the corner. It's in a circle in the corner of this kind of rectangle with that photo that says bobvilla.com, how to seal a granite countertop. So it's right kind of underneath the link, the blue highlighted link URL.
I don't see it. Oh, here. See,
Here I can show you an example. I'll go back. See that red arrow? I'm pointing to it right here.
yes,
So
I see it here.
Yep. So kind of hard to see, which I agree with. You know, I wish that it could be a little bit more prominent. I think Facebook was probably trying not to impede on the experience, but it is nice that they have it because then you can kind of hover over it and learn more about that website.
Well, I'll look for it.
Yeah. I think it's also helpful when people are sharing news articles and maybe you haven't heard of that news site before. And you could say, I wonder what kind of political leaning this news site might have. How legitimate is this site? I think it can kind of help with that too, give you a little bit of a preview before clicking through. So this link is safe to click on. How about this one? Yes or no?
Well, no, neither.
Good
one.
answer. This is not something that you should click on. You know, maybe you might get a message from someone who is a dear friend of yours or someone you know, and this might make you feel kind of nervous, like, oh my gosh, are they mad at me? What's going on? It might make you feel like, oh my gosh, I got to see what's going on here. But that's the point. They're trying to grab our attention, and it's an effective way of doing that. But clicking on that link would be a very bad idea. So here's another an article that was shared in my Facebook news feed. You can see that the little I in the circle is there. A little hard to see, but it's kind of in the top right corner. And when I hover over it, I can see, okay, this came from a publication called Sauce Magazine, which I've heard of. You can see other articles that were shared from this magazine.
Well, I know the people, so.
Yeah, you know that, and you know Lefty's Bagels is legit. So this would be a safe link to click on. It's just a standard article. I just think hopefully, you know, some of those tools are helpful, and you know, when you see something that you don't recognize, at least Facebook kind of offers those options to help you vet to make sure it's okay. So I mentioned two-factor authentication. Oh, sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, Norm has a question.
Facebook has a poor reputation for unethical business practices and dealing with the public. Why should we believe them when they tell us a certain symbol is going to be legitimate?
It's a great question. I agree with you. And sometimes it feels like a necessary evil in our lives. Like everyone's on Facebook, and if you're not on it, and if you know, you might be missing out. So you know, it's like, again, the necessary evil in our lives that we want to be on there to engage with our family and friends and consume information. But we do have to be cautious when it comes to things that maybe Facebook says. They are taking some actions to try to be more transparent, like that that little I symbol is purely just showing other things that have been shared from that news source. So then you can then make the determination whether it's something you feel confident in clicking on. You might hover over that and say, okay, this is a fake news site. Why is this even on here? This is problematic. But at least you have the ability to kind of preview that content before clicking through or sharing it and making the problem worse.
Yeah, I really wasn't asking you to defend them, but
Oh, I'm not defending. Yeah,
it's certainly a cynical thought that ran right in my mind when I hear the name Facebook.
absolutely. And I'll talk about some other topics related to that later in the presentation.
Jessica, just to add on to what you said, I think you're more talking about, is it a link that is going to infect your computer or your device? Is it a malicious link? You may not want to click a link because you don't like the source that is presented, but what the I button with Facebook tells you is that it's not going to be a link that is going to infect your device with a virus.
That's correct. Can make you feel a little bit safer, knowing that yes, there are risks with being on these sites. There are pros and there are cons, for sure. Another thing that I think is important to cover, something that can make you feel safer when you are using sites like Facebook, is two-factor authentication. So as I talked about before, one of the more common hacking schemes is where someone sends out a link, kind of like those examples you saw before. If you accidentally click on it, it takes you to a fake login page that's asking you to log in again. So then by mistakenly entering our login credentials again, we can accidentally give hackers our login info, and then they can access our account. And this, goes for Facebook or other online login platforms. So if you accidentally click a link and it looks like Facebook has logged you out of your account and is asking you to log in again, just exit completely, just X out. And then go back and log in the way that you normally do, either by opening up the app on your phone or just opening up your internet and typing in www.facebook.com again. So again, be a little cautious and wary when you're being prompted to log in again. One other really important tip, and again, this doesn't just apply to Facebook, is setting up two-factor authentication. And this is where you can tell Facebook that in order to enable a new device to log into your account, that you not only have to enter your username and password, you also have to enter a unique 6-digit code that either gets texted to your phone or emailed to you. So this helps create an extra layer of security, and it's almost becoming the norm now when it comes to accessing online accounts. So again, it's not just Facebook. It is a bit more cumbersome. It's an extra step, but it really can make you feel a lot safer and secure when you're using the internet and logging into these platforms. So if you're interested in setting this up on Facebook or on any other account, I'd recommend sitting down with a friend or a relative and having them help you get it set up, and then showing you how to find that 6-digit code. I personally have this set up on almost every social media site that I use or bank account that I use. Anytime I see that it's an option, I do it because it just makes me feel more comfortable using these websites.
Can we use the same 6-digit code for ourselves?
It changes every time. So anytime you want to log in, it will send you a unique 6-digit code. So that's why it's a bit cumbersome. You have to open up your email or it gets texted to your phone. And you have to say, okay, what's my 6-digit code? And then you have to enter it in order to log in.
But you have to use a variable code and not one that you use all the time.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not something you have to remember, which is good. It's not another password, but it is an extra step, and I would recommend it.
Is that only on Facebook?
It's on most social media sites, most online baking sites. A lot of sites are starting to roll it out because it just keeps you safer, it keeps them safer. It's definitely, you're going to probably see it a lot more in the future as well. It's not a necessary step, but it's an important one that we should all consider implementing. Great questions.
I believe Lois has a question. You can unmute yourself, Lois. Lois, you're muted.
A neighbor of mine, she helps me with ordering ink, and I think it's delivered through Amazon. But there's other links, things that appear in my computer. It says order ink at lower cost and we'll mail it to you right away. I don't use those, but what do you advise about those?
Yeah, it sounds like you're getting targeted advertising based on a past purchase, which funny enough is a lot of what I work on at Purina within the marketing team there. We're looking at, oh, what are people buying on Amazon and how can we target them with more relevant ads? So that's definitely a normal thing to come across. You know, I think it's something if you don't want to pay attention to it, and if it's not relevant to you, you can just ignore it. But that is kind of seeing ads is kind of the price that we pay for being able to browse the internet for free and, you know, look at whatever content we want. Ads are all over Facebook. That's how they make money. So we kind of have to accept that seeing ads is, you know, again, kind of the price we pay for being able to utilize apps and to browse the internet and consume content online.
Well, how would you know if they were real? Like maybe
A real ad.
Yeah, I mean,
like
you could order. Obviously, if I clicked on them, I could probably order. But I wouldn't know if I'd ever get the merchandise.
Depends which retailer it is that's running the advertisement. So if it is Amazon that's running those ads, then if you click on them, it'll take you back to Amazon, and then you would you know, add it to your cart and then check out. It could be Walmart that's targeting you. It could be Lowe's. It could be another company. But either way, I think you can choose to ignore it, or you could click on it if you need ink and see what, you know, which retailer is this that's targeting me with this ad. So it's a great question.
Okay, thanks.
I love there are so many questions. Oh, Lynn had her virtual hand up. Maybe she had her question answered. Lynn, you can unmute yourself if you have a question, but otherwise I'll let Jessica continue.
Thank you guys so much for all the great questions. I will continue on to the next section. So last year, Facebook came out with what I think is a really nice feature where they give you simple step-by-step instructions on how to adjust your privacy settings. So it makes it really easy to see kind of what settings you have in place currently, and it allows you to make quick changes that you would feel more comfortable with. So here are some steps on how to get to the privacy checkup. And again, I will send these slides out to you so that you can take these steps if you want to go through the privacy checkup in your account. But I've got them in here to show you again, when you're logged in, here's where to go to get to that privacy checkup. You click on the top right corner, there's a drop down. You click on settings and privacy. Once you're in there, you click on that privacy checkup button with the little lock and heart. So once you are in there, I do have some tips for you on how you can make your account more secure. So the first thing you'll see is a place where you can adjust who can see your profile information. When it comes to things like your phone number and your email address, I would adjust this to say only me. I don't think there's any reason why anyone that you're friends with on Facebook should need to see or look up your phone number or your email on Facebook. They should already have that if they are your friend. This is personal information, and I would just change this to only me if it's not there already. Now, this is where you can also choose whether or not to share your birthday, which a lot of people really like because it's a great way to remember whose birthday it is and to wish people happy birthday. But one tip that Susan brought up that I thought was cool is you could take the year out and just say the month and the date, so that, again, it makes it, so people will see your birthday, but they won't know maybe the birth year. So that just helps limit the amount of personal information about you that is out there. So the next prompt that you'll see when you go through this is who can see what you share? And I think this is really important. My recommendation to you when you go through this is to adjust it to friends, so that only those that you've added as a friend can see the information on your profile. Even once you've set this to friends, I would still recommend making sure you avoid posting any personal information when you're writing posts on Facebook. Try to avoid posting anything where anyone could identify who you are: email, phone number, address. Just be cautious about what you're sharing in general when you're engaging on social media. Last, in the Privacy Checkup, you can control who can send you a friend request. So my recommendation is to keep this set to friends of friends. Just like in real life, it's much safer if you can only be introduced to someone through a personal connection. And with Facebook, it's no different. Do not accept a friend request if you don't know the person, or do not accept a friend request if you are already friends with the person. It could be a fake account that's trying to hack or scam people. Last, it is okay to be selective over who you accept as a friend on Facebook. It should be a fun, safe, and enjoyable experience. If someone sends you a friend request and you know the person, but you just don't feel like accepting it, then don't. They won't be notified that you declined. It's truly not as big of a deal as you might think. It's all about making sure you're comfortable with who you're connecting with online. So that's just my personal tip to you. It's okay to be selective in who you accept as a friend on Facebook. Any questions on this section? Again, I'll send out instructions on how to get here. Once you're in the Privacy Checkup, they actually make it really easy for you to make all these adjustments. Nope. Okay, so entering the last section of my presentation is about misinformation, which is a very important topic right now. So misinformation comes in many different forms, and it thrives on social media, where anyone can share anything they choose and content spreads really quickly. Many people actually share misinformation unknowingly on Facebook, and often with good intentions, whether it's to maybe share or to confirm their perspective on an issue, or to warn others away from danger, or maybe we're just trying to make sense of a big hot button topic or an issue. Some people knowingly share content that they suspect to be false with the intention of angering the other side or getting likes or engagement on their posts for the thrill of going viral. Then there are also bad actors who intentionally create and share disinformation to cause division or confusion, to erode trust, to promote a particular interest, or even to make money. So this is the key difference between misinformation and disinformation. It's all about the intention. Misinformation tends to elicit strong emotions like fear, anger, outrage, I found this screenshot that I thought was really nice that includes some key watchouts, common kind of red flags on things you might see online that could be misinformation. So phrases like, let that sink in, or the media won't report this, or make this go viral. Common patterns that you might see, oftentimes text on a sign, like a protest sign, could be changed or altered, or text that you might see on someone's t-shirt could be altered. A lot of times there are kind of doctored or digitally manipulated images that look really cool but aren't real. Photos of protests and crowds are oftentimes taken from old news stories and are just totally out of context. Or if you see a screenshot of something with no link to kind of show where this source of news came from, that's also a red flag. So misinformation can also come in the form of fake or doctored images or videos that are created with the purpose of going viral. So the intention here is to help a social media account get lots of engagement and followers so that then they can make money off of their following. So the more likes and follows I get on my account, I can then go and work with an influencer, advertiser, and monetize my following. Examples of these things include cute animal images, like this picture of the Battle of the Corgis. This was actually a digitally altered image, but was posted by an account called Baby Animals, who's just, again, trying to get a ton of followers posting images that aren't real. You'll oftentimes see, I'm seeing this a lot when I'm on social media, amazing nature or space videos, like cool geological formations or digital artwork that looks real but isn't. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to play this example for you. This was one that was recently went viral. This was digitally manipulated. It's not real. It was created by a digital artist, but it looks like it could be real. So seeing things like this, you might think, wow, that's amazing. I want to share it, but it's not real. Last, there are sometimes posts that go viral that they're not trying to steal your information. They're just trying to get you to like the page. Like in this Lululemon example, they're looking for ambassadors for their upcoming clothing season. And it comes from an account called Lulu Recruitment. They're using the Lululemon logo, but it's not actually coming from the company Lululemon. And they're not trying to get you to click on anything. They're just trying to get you to like the page and share it to make it go viral. So I think the key watch out with this type of misinformation is that this stuff isn't out here to cause harm or anything like that. It can be entertaining, but just be cautious of things like this because there are often ulterior motives behind content like this on social media. And this is really, really rampant right now. So in today's fast-paced media world, news and images will circulate on social media sites before hitting mainstream media. So it can be tempting to want to use social media as like your primary news source for getting breaking news. The stories and images that we're seeing coming out of Ukraine are terrible and heartbreaking. It's important to be aware of what's happening and to shed light on the atrocities that are going on. But it's also really important to make sure that any new piece of information we're consuming on social media or considering sharing with our friends and family has been verified and that it isn't being taken out of context. So images floating around on social media can be easily doctored or sourced from old news articles or even movies or video games. They can make things seem really positive or give us hope, or they can be made to look worse than they really are by being taken out of context. So in this example I have here, there are pictures that were floating around on Facebook of Ukrainian farmers seizing Russian military equipment, but these were all digitally altered. So you are probably reading about this in the news right now, but Russian state media is using things like this to their advantage. They're trying to kind of put out this false narrative that you can't trust anything you see about the war and that it's all being exaggerated or staged. So on social media sites like Facebook and Twitter, again, it's hard to know where information is coming from and what the intentions are behind it. So the best advice I can give, and this really goes for any online content you might come across on social media, whether it's YouTube or even an email forward that you might get, is to make sure the content has been verified before you engage with it. I was just reading an article yesterday on the Washington Post about how there are groups of independent fact checkers in Ukraine who are working closely with Facebook to help fact check content that's being shared across their platform. So once something is determined to be false or partially false, Facebook will decrease its visibility on the platform, and they'll attach this warning label, like in this example I've shown you right here, pointing to an explanation from the fact checker and other articles you can look at. But as you might be hearing in the news, which is why Facebook is kind of in the hot seat, this takes time. This is difficult. This is hard. So content is spreading way more quickly than they can keep up with. So it's just always a good rule of thumb to hit pause, wait for verification before you decide to share or engage with content online. And then last, in times of crisis, charity fraud on social media can also be a problem. So if you want to support organizations doing charity work, stick to well-known organizations that have a history of working on the issue. Go to that charity directly. Don't, if you see a post on social media asking you to support a cause, I would be wary and cautious of that. Be wary of online requests to wire money, send gift cards, and again, avoid clicking links or downloading attachments from unknown sources. And that is where I leave you. I've made it through all of my content for today and now have about 15 minutes for any other questions, or if there are other topics or things you'd love to learn about, I would love to hear them.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question on the password.
Yes.
I've been using the same password. I take a family name, bring it into two separate syllables, and put a number 1 in the middle. Do you have any recommendations how to change it, and how, as well as how frequently?
Yeah, great question. And a lot of people do that. I think that's, a common approach because you want it to be easy to remember. I would recommend not using a family name. I would come up with maybe a nickname that you have for a family member. I don't know about you, we have a dog and we have a ton of nicknames for him. So you could use, again, a nickname or maybe a saying or a phrase that you say all the time, but that wouldn't be easy to guess. And I like your approach of having a number in the middle of it. But yeah, I would just avoid using family names in general.
It's not a common name. It's a European name, and most people don't know that.
Yeah.
That's why it's easy to remember for me.
No, I get that. I hear you. I think the thing is, someone could know that you're related to, it could be easy for someone to look you up and see that you have a relative with that name. On Facebook. I don't know, maybe not. I think in general, it's just good to avoid family names if you can. But if you feel like it's really hard to spell, hard for someone to guess.
It is. But I think of just changing the number to another digit or something frequently might help.
It might help. And I would recommend, trying to change it every couple months if you can, whether it's changing that number, changing maybe a letter that you capitalize, you could change which letter gets capitalized, or use a different symbol. Just playing around with it, I think, is a good idea, and just keeping it refreshed is really
One would
important.
be easy for me to remember.
I know, I get it.
Your middle name is Becker. Are you related to someone named Susan?
We are not related, but
Oh,
I know.
can't
But it's
believe
a
that. You're
great
both
name.
good.
It's a great name.
Yes.
I am related to, yeah, the Beckers of St. Louis, and now the Mirowitzes of St. Louis.
Well, that's good. All right.
Yeah, all good.
So Barbara put in the chat, what fact-checking sites do you recommend?
Oh, great question. I'll send you a list of a few. I found a really good one called PolitiFact. That's a nonprofit, not affiliated with any political leaning or party. But why don't I send out a couple of links to some of those sites that I found as a follow-up to this? Would that be all right?
Sounds good.
Great. Yeah, there's a couple of really good ones that I found to be really helpful.
Maxine would like to know, is there an app you suggest that blocks and warns you of suspicious content if you accidentally open a link? I saw an article that suggested a robocall app to screen malicious texts and calls.
Oh, you know what? That's a great question. Not exactly my area of expertise. I bet Nick Warman, who spoke recently, he did a great presentation on cybersecurity. Maybe we could reach out to him and ask if he has any recommendations on tools like that. But that is something I'm not sure of. Great question. I use a password manager tool called Dashlane, and they actually will notify you if one of the sites that you have a password on has maybe been compromised, or if there's like a well-known hacking that happened at said company, and they'll advise you to proactively go in and change your password. So I really, really like tools like that. They'll also tell you, they'll remind you, hey, it's been 4 months, change your password, or hey, you're using the same password across 10 sites, you might want to go change that. So I can't recommend tools like that enough, but it is having another tool that you have to learn can be a little daunting. So it may be working with a family member to kind of help you get set up on a tool like that would be a good next step. And I could even in a follow-up send out a couple examples of tools that would be good for that.
So, and Mike wrote in the chat, if you use a password manager such as Dashlane, you only have to remember one password. My Dashlane password is 4 unrelated words with a few capital letters and numbers.
That's great. Yep, same. Yeah, I have. I use Dashlane. I have a really difficult to guess password. I only have to remember that. What's also nice is I have it on my phone, and it scans my face in order to log me in now, so I don't even have to remember my password. So that's another more common way that you might be seeing some of these sites are migrating towards to increase security, is literally scanning your facial features to give you access. Definitely more common on iPhones, but is becoming a bit more of the norm, which is, the wave of the future. And a little creepy that they are looking at my facial features to determine that I'm me. So many great questions.
Because you have a good face. People just want to do it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question, Jessica. So a lot of times we will get emails or texts, and they are from companies with whom we do business, like Amazon, or your credit card will send you a text saying, did you make this purchase? how do you know what you should click on, what you shouldn't click on? What do you do in those types of situations?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is to pick up the phone, and if you're unsure, to just pick up the phone and call customer service. Say, I got this text, I got this email, I'm not sure. Did you send this? And just reaching out to them via their direct communication lines, I think is always the best way to make sure that something, what you saw is legit. They might say, yep, that's legit. That was fine. That was from us. And then you can click through and address the issue online. Or they might say, nope, that was not from us. So do not click on that, delete it. But I think that's typically the best rule of thumb.
I purchase a lot from Amazon and get all kinds of calls. I try to call them once, of course, if it's fake. So I just disregard any of those phone calls. If there's a problem, Amazon will contact me.
Via email, usually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There never has been any problems.
Yeah. I know that there was a great presentation a couple months ago from Nick Warman, who talked about cybersecurity. Phishing is a common issue where, an email might look legitimate, but there are clear signs that it's not, like misspellings or a weird link or things like that. But I do think, we can typically tell when an email that we get from a company is legitimate or not. But yeah, even my work does trainings with us a lot to help us detect, phishing emails. So they'll send us fake phishing emails and ask us to identify them. So I would recommend checking out Nick's presentation. I know it's recorded. He had some really good tips on that.
Are there any final questions? Oh, okay, well, I will use this opportunity to let you all know that Jessica will be back again next month on Thursday, May 19th at 2 p.m. And this one's going to be on podcast. So if you've ever heard of like TED Talks, that's a type of popular podcast. And they can be really fun and informative and a great way to pass your time. But you have to know how to do it and what's legit, what's not. So Jessica will be back for that next month. You can let me know if you would like to register for that. And I just want to thank Jessica once again for being here and sharing this valuable information with us.
We can ever contact Jessica ourselves, an email
Absolutely.
address.
Yeah,
Pardon?
I'll share my email.
Please.
Absolutely.
And she's just fantastic. So thank you all for being here today, and enjoy the sunshine.
Yeah, thank you all so much. It was great being with you.
Norm's
welcome.
giving you the thumbs up.
Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.